My morning routine usually centers me. Coffee brewing, sunlight streaming through east-facing windows, Cooper's warm weight against my ankles as I scroll through emails. But today, the ordinary shatters in an instant. My finger freezes mid-swipe on the iPad screen. The Facebook notification reads, Victoria Ellsworth added 24 new photos to the album, Dad's 80th birthday celebration. I tap it before I can think better of it. The Vineyard Restaurant, white tablecloths, crystal glasses filled with amber liquid, Dad's favorite Basil Hayden bourbon, neat. My stomach twists into a cold, hard knot as I register who's seated around that elegantly set table. Dad, his silver hair neatly combed. Mother, her practiced smile revealing nothing. Victoria, her diamond earrings catching the light. And beside her, Thomas Miller, my ex-husband. The timestamp reads 8:42 p.m. Last night. No, I whisper to my empty kitchen. No, no, no. Cooper whines, pressing his golden head against my suddenly trembling hands. I zoom in on Thomas's face, the same practiced charm he once used to convince me to loan him $43,000 for his guaranteed investment opportunity. Money I never saw again. The same man I had explicitly warned my family about at Christmas. I swipe to another photo. Victoria laughs at something Thomas has said, her hand touching his arm with casual familiarity. Around her neck gleams Grandmother Warren's pearl necklace, the one meant to be shared between us sisters. I haven't seen it in years. My breath comes quicker now. Another swipe. A 2012 Pinot Noir on the table, the exact vintage I helped Dad select for a special occasion last summer. My special occasion recommendation. For an event I wasn't even told about. Memory ambushes me like a physical blow. Christmas dinner at the lake house. Pine-scented candles fighting against the smell of Mom's overcooked turkey. I'm telling you, he's targeting seniors with these investment schemes, I'd said. My voice kept deliberately steady. He did it to me. He's doing it to others. Mother had set down her fork with that familiar sigh. You've always been too dramatic, Eleanor. Perhaps if you'd been more understanding during your marriage. Maybe if you'd been more supportive, your marriage wouldn't have failed, Victoria had added, rolling her eyes at Mother in that conspiratorial way they'd perfected over decades. Dad had studied his plate, saying nothing. His silence hurt worse than their words. Now I understand why. They'd already welcomed Thomas back. Behind my back. The phone rings, startling me so badly I nearly dropped the iPad. Martha's name lights up the screen. Me best friend since 7th grade, now a retired school principal with a radar for trouble. I just saw Victoria's post, she says without preamble. What are you going to do about it this time? This time. The words cut deeper than she knows. How many times have I swallowed my hurt, smoothed things over, kept the peace? How many times have I watched Victoria receive the attention, the affirmation, the benefit of every doubt? I don't know, I answer, but my feet are already moving. Past the framed family photo on the mantel taken before the divorce, when I still believed family meant protection. Through the hallway where I've hung my most successful watercolors, the ones featured in Vermont Living magazine that my parents never mentioned. Into my home office, where sunlight catches the silver strands in my auburn hair as I stand before the filing cabinet marked, Thomas, Records. You have two choices, Martha continues, her voice crisp through the speakerphone. Either you stay silent again, or you stand up for yourself for once. My fingers hover over the drawer handle. Inside lies every email, every bank statement, every broken promise. Evidence of the man who charmed his way into my heart, then methodically drained my savings. The man now sitting beside my father, raising a glass of wine I recommended, while my mother and sister smile. The man they chose over me. Eleanor? Martha prompts. I stare at my reflection in the window glass, at the woman who has spent a lifetime seeking approval from people determined not to give it. When does protecting family peace become sacrificing your own dignity? The filing cabinet drawer slides open with a sound like truth breaking free. Enough, I whisper. Enough is enough. That same night, the filing cabinet drawer slides open with the whisper of metal against metal. I pull out the overstuffed folder and place it on my antique oak desk, the same desk where I've created award-winning watercolors that my family never bothered to acknowledge. Cooper settles at my feet with a soft whine. I'm okay, boy, I whisper, though we both know it's a lie. Martha's voice crackles through the speakerphone. Start with the bank statements. Those don't lie. My hands move with the precision of an artist accustomed to detail work. I arrange the documents in chronological order across the polished wood surface, an archaeological dig of betrayal. The contrast between my meticulously organized home studio and this chaos of paperwork strikes me as I smooth each page. The bank statements tell their own damning story. 5 transfers to Thomas, $12,000, $8,000, $15,000, $5,000, and finally $3,000. Each one accompanied by his handwritten promises of repayment once the investors come through. $43,000 vanished like morning mist over Lake Champlain. "Look at this," I say, holding up a business pitch deck for Martha to see through the video call. "He listed me as a guarantor. My signature. He forged it." Martha leans closer to her screen. "Send that to Walter immediately." I shuffle through more papers and freeze. Oh God. A photograph slides from between 2 folders. Thomas and Dad at the Hawk Ridge Golf Club, arms around each other's shoulders, smiling like old friends. The date stamp in the corner reads the 27th of January, 3 weeks after I warned them all at Christmas. My stomach clenches as I pull up my email. There's more. My mother's name appears in multiple message threads with Thomas. I click on one dated the 14th of February. "Margaret, I appreciate your support with Richard. This investment opportunity will be the perfect retirement cushion for you both. Our meeting next Tuesday should seal the deal." The phone buzzes with a text. "Victoria, Mom's convinced Dad that you deserve another chance. Maybe we all need to put the past behind us. So." The text is from March. They've been planning this for months while shutting me out. "Martha," I say, my voice steadying with rage rather than tears. "They have a meeting scheduled. Tomorrow morning. At Dad's bank." "What?" Martha sounds as stunned as I feel. "How do you know?" I hold up my iPad. Victoria's sloppy with her cloud storage. Her calendar synced to the family share we never disconnected. Investment meeting 9 a.m. First Vermont Trust with Thomas M. As I speak, another memory surfaces with perfect clarity. Age 16. The art scholarship letter in my hands. The prestigious Harrington Foundation offering me a summer residency. Mom's voice cutting through my excitement. "Victoria's grades are what really matter for the future, Eleanor. Art is a lovely hobby, but let's keep our priorities straight." I glance at the Vermont Living magazine on my bookshelf. My watercolor series featured on the cover. 7 months ago. Not a single congratulatory call from any of them. The doorbell rings and moments later, Martha strides in with a coffee tray and the determined look of a retired school principal who's broken up one too many playground fights. "I called David," she announces, setting down the tray. "He's joining us by video in 5 minutes." David appears on my laptop screen precisely on time. At 62, my gallery owner and friend brings both pragmatic business sense and unwavering loyalty. "I've been thinking," he says after I've outlined the situation. "Richard trusts his financial advisor more than anyone, even more than Margaret." Martha nods. "Walter Harrison. They've been friends for 30 years. If anyone can get through to Richard about Thomas, it's Walter." That's it. I open a new email. Subject line: urgent. Before tomorrow's meeting with Thomas Miller. For the next hour, we craft the message together. Martha helps me choose measured, factual language. David suggests attaching only the most incontrovertible evidence. Include those SEC complaints from his previous business partners, David advises. Walter needs to see the pattern. When we finish, I stare at the send button. My finger hovers, trembling slightly. On the mantle, a framed photo shows Dad teaching me to fish at age 10. His patient hands guiding mine on the rod, his smile proud as I reeled in my first rainbow trout. "What if this tears us apart forever?" I whisper. Martha squeezes my shoulder. "Honey, you're already torn apart. The question is whether you'll let them keep pretending otherwise." I click send. For 10 excruciating minutes, we wait in silence. When the response arrives, I read it aloud. "Thank you, Eleanor. I've been concerned about this meeting myself. I'll review everything before tomorrow's 9 a.m. appointment. We'll speak soon, Walter." A weight lifts from my shoulders, not completely, but enough to draw a full breath for the first time today. The corners of my mouth twitch upward in what feels like my first genuine smile since seeing those birthday photos. Martha heads to the kitchen and returns with 3 glasses of wine. She raises hers in a toast. to speaking your truth even when your voice shakes. David lifts his glass from miles away, to standing your ground. I look toward the window, where my reflection stares back at my silver-streaked auburn hair, lines of determination forming around my mouth. What would you risk to protect someone who hasn't protected you? Before either can answer, my phone rings. Walter's name flashes on the screen. Eleanor, he says, his voice urgent. I've found something you need to see. Right now. I stand before the canvas at dawn, brush gliding across the surface in violent strokes. The seascape takes shape. Dark clouds gather over turbulent waters, reflecting the storm inside me. Cooper dozes near the radiator, his gentle snoring the only sound besides brush against canvas. My phone buzzes for the third time this morning. Victoria again. What did you do? Dad just called the investment meeting critical and canceled his golf game. Answer me, Anwin. I set my brush down and study the message. The old Anwin would have responded immediately, apologizing for something she hadn't done. The woman I'm becoming places the phone face down without replying. The soft morning light filters through my studio blinds as I wash pigment from my hands. Today calls for something different than paint-spattered jeans and an oversized sweater. I select a forest green blazer that brings out the gold flecks in my hazel eyes, charcoal trousers, and my grandmother's pearl earrings. Not armor exactly, but close. The phone rings as I'm applying mascara. Walter Harrison, Dad's financial advisor for 30 years. Good morning, Anwin, he says, his Vermont accent more pronounced than usual. Richard wants you there. I suggested it would be prudent. The mascara wand freezes midair. Dad asked for me specifically? His exact words were, "Tell my daughter I expect her presence." So yes, he wants you there. My stomach tightens. This is the first direct request he's made in months. Your father needs to see this unfold himself, Walter says, his voice softening. I've reviewed everything you sent. It's exactly what I suspected but couldn't prove. I close my eyes, steadying myself. I'll be there. The First Vermont Trust Conference Room. 9 sharp. After hanging up, I retrieve a leather portfolio from my desk. Inside lies every document Martha helped me organize last night: bank statements, emails, SEC complaints. I add one more item, a photograph of Thomas and Dad at the golf club, the bourbon between them, the same brand from the birthday dinner I wasn't invited to. That morning, the bank's granite facade looms against the spring sky as I park. My fingers grip the steering wheel until my knuckles blanch white. I breathe deeply, remembering Martha's words. You're not creating a problem. You're exposing one that already exists. The wood-paneled conference room hums with subdued conversation when I enter. 8 men in their 60s and 70s, Dad's friends and fellow investors, cluster around a polished table. Their eyes follow me with curiosity as I take a seat near the door. Dad sits at the head of the table, his silver hair combed perfectly, his posture rigid as always. Our eyes meet briefly. He offers a curt nod before looking away. Not forgiveness, but acknowledgement. Walter sits to Dad's right, his expression professionally neutral except for the barely perceptible wink he gives me. Then Thomas strides in, confidence radiating from every pore. His charcoal suit costs more than most people's monthly mortgage, his handmade Italian shoes gleaming under the recessed lighting. His smile falters momentarily when he spots me, but recovers so quickly I almost doubt what I saw. Gentlemen, he begins, ignoring my presence entirely. Thank you for this opportunity to present Fortified First AI Integrated Predictive Model for Retirement Portfolios. The presentation unfolds with slick precision. Graphs materialize on the screen, promising guaranteed 22% returns and unprecedented market resilience. I recognize every slide from the files Thomas had shown me 2 years ago when he first asked for just a small loan to get things started. I remain silent, watching Dad's face as Thomas speaks. The slight furrow in his brow deepens with each passing minute. He's beginning to see the patterns. Walter waits until Thomas pauses for questions. Mr. Miller, could you explain why your previous venture with identical projections failed in Massachusetts? Thomas adjusts his tie. That was a different application of the technology. Market conditions weren't optimal. Interesting, Walter continues, because the prospectus language is nearly identical. Thomas's confidence flickers, like a television with poor reception. The core technology remains proven, but we've refined the implementation significantly. My moment arrives. I slide copies of my documentation to each person at the table. These are records of the $43,000 Thomas borrowed from me. I say, my voice steadier than my heartbeat. Money he claimed was for a guaranteed investment. The graphics in today's presentation are identical to what he showed me 2 years ago. Murmurs ripple around the table. Thomas's face flushes crimson. "This is personal," he shouts, jabbing a finger toward me. "She's trying to sabotage me because our marriage failed. Because I moved on." Dad's knuckles whiten around his pen. "Richard," Thomas says, his voice regaining composure, "you know I've been nothing but honest with you. Anwin has always been emotional, especially about our divorce." Walter clears his throat. "The SEC has already opened an investigation based on 3 similar complaints in the New England area. I confirmed this yesterday." Thomas lunges toward me, knocking his chair backward. "You vindictive bitch, you've been planning this for months." The bank security officer steps forward from his position by the door. 2 other men at the table rise to their feet. The conference room door flies open. Mother strides in, Victoria close behind. Their matching expressions of outrage freeze as they take in the scene. Thomas restrained by security, papers scattered across the table, the investors' faces a mixture of shock and anger. "What have you done now?" Mother demands, her gaze locked on me. Victoria steps forward. "You're destroying this family out of spite. You couldn't stand that Dad and Thomas were reconnecting." I open my mouth to defend myself, but Dad's voice cuts through the room. "That's enough." His tone leaves no room for argument. "Eleanor saved us from a serious mistake today. Thomas has been lying to all of us." The silence that follows feels thick enough to touch. Minutes later, I stand alone in the parking lot, watching Mother and Victoria drive away with Dad in the back seat. His expression through the window was unreadable, but he'd given me a slight nod before getting into the car. Walter approaches, hands in his pockets. "Your father asked me to tell you he'll call you later." "Will he actually call?" Walter smiles. "For the first time in years, I think Richard Warren might be seeing clearly. Give him time." I nod, noticing several of Dad's friends walking toward me from the bank entrance. Their expressions hold something I've rarely experienced from my parents' social circle: respect. The truth is finally emerging. The cost is yet to be determined. My phone buzzes before sunrise next day. Cooper lifts his head from the foot of my bed, watching as I squint at the screen. The notification banner cuts through the pre-dawn darkness. "Victoria Ellsworth has tagged you in a post." "No," I whisper, but my finger taps it anyway. Victoria's words punch harder than any fist. "Some people can't stand seeing others happy. They'd rather destroy a family than admit they're wrong." I scroll down. Mother's comment sits beneath it, a calculated missile. "Family loyalty matters more than being right, Victoria. Some people never learn that lesson." The comments flood in beneath confused questions, vague supportive statements from people who have no idea what they're supporting. My cousin asking what happened. My mother's bridge partner sending prayer hands. 27 reactions already, and it's barely 6 a.m. Cooper nudges my hand with his cold nose as my breath catches. I set the phone face down on my nightstand, then pick it up again. Screenshot, screenshot, screenshot. Evidence gathering has become my morning ritual. I won't give them the satisfaction of a public response. Victoria has always played to an audience. I refuse to join her performance. My coffee has barely finished brewing when the first text arrives from Thomas. "You've violated our confidentiality agreement. My lawyer will be in touch." I stare at the words, hot mug warming my suddenly cold fingers. What confidentiality agreement? We never signed anything during our divorce. It's a bluffone of his classic intimidation tactics. Mother's email arrives next. Subject line: "What have you done?" Anwin: "You've manipulated Walter with false information. Your father is devastated by your behavior. If you had concerns, you should have come to us privately instead of humiliating the family. I've always tried to protect you from the consequences of your emotional decisions, but this time you've gone too far. Margaret." Not Mom. Not even your mother. Just Margaret. I forward everything to Walter without comment, then add Lisa to the thread. The evidence keeps mounting. Victoria's voicemail comes an hour later. "Anwin, I don't know what kind of professional help you need, but these delusions about Thomas have to stop. Dad is beside himself. Call me when you're ready to apologize." I play it twice. listening for any hint of the sister I once knew. There's nothing but cold calculation in her voice. By afternoon, I've dressed for my gallery opening with mechanical precision. Black dress, silver jewelry I designed myself, hair swept into a smooth chignon. I look collected, professional, unbroken. The gallery lights cast warm halos around my watercolors, Vermont landscapes reinvented through memory and emotion, but the usual cluster of family members is conspicuously absent. No Richard, no Margaret, no Victoria. Stunning work, Anwin, Richard's friend Gordon says, clasping my hand. His wife Judith stands beside him, her eyes communicating more than her words. Thomas was escorted from the bank yesterday, Gordon whispers, leaning close. Walter isn't discussing details, but everyone knows something serious happened. Judith touches my arm. We've known your father for 30 years. He'll come around. More of Dad's friends arrive throughout the evening. Dr. Coleman, his golf partner. The Hendersons from the Lake Association. Small gestures of support in a town rapidly dividing into camps. The gallery door opens at 8:42 p.m. My nephew James stands awkwardly in the entrance, scanning the room until he spots me. Mom doesn't know I'm here, he says without preamble when he reaches me. At 30, he has Victoria's height but none of her calculation. Thomas approached me last month about investing in his company. My stomach clenches. What did you tell him? James pulls out his phone, scrolling through messages. I told him I needed time to consider it. Then he sent me these. The texts fill the screen. Your Aunt Anwin is mentally unstable. She's been spreading lies because she's bitter about our divorce. Your grandfather agrees with me, that's why he's investing. She's always been jealous of your mother's success. Don't mention our conversation to her. I'm including you because I see potential in you that others in your family might miss. Classic Thomas isolating his targets, creating divisions, making each person feel special and seen. The exact tactics he used on me. I didn't believe him, James says, pocketing his phone. But Mom does. She always has. For the first time today, tears prick behind my eyes. Not from Victoria's attacks or Mother's coldness, but from this unexpected alliance. The family's united front is developing hairline cracks. Thank you, I whisper, squeezing his arm. This means more than you know. Behind us, Martha's daughter Sarah studies documents spread across a gallery bench. Yellow legal pad covered in notes. These contract violations are clear-cut, she says, looking up as we approach. I've drafted a cease and desist response to Thomas's threats. She passes me a business card. Walter connected me with the bank's legal team. They want to speak with you tomorrow. The walls Thomas built to contain me are crumbling, each threat becoming another brick in my foundation instead. My phone vibrates with a news alert. The local business newsletter has published a brief notice about an SEC investigation into investment fraud targeting seniors in Burlington. Thomas isn't named, but anyone paying attention will connect the dots. Before I can process this, Victoria's name flashes on my screen. Are you trying to humiliate us all? She demands, her voice sharp enough to cut. I take a deep breath, stepping away from the crowd into the quiet back office. The truth isn't something I created, Victoria. It's something I finally stopped hiding. The line goes silent. Another call from her. Then the sound of our father's voice in the background saying my name. Dad wants to see you, Victoria says stiffly. He's coming over tomorrow morning. After we disconnect, I stand motionless in the quiet room. 3 months since Christmas dinner. 3 months since they chose Thomas over me after divorce. Tomorrow, for the first time, my father will face me alone. James appears in the doorway. You okay? I meet his concerned gaze and find myself nodding. I'm finally standing in my truth. It hurts, but not as much as the lies did. Next morning, Victoria stands in my living room like a fortress under siege, arms crossed over her cashmere sweater. Her arrival shattered the fragile peace Dad and I had established moments before. You've turned Dad against us all, she says, voice brittle as autumn leaves. Dad sits in my reading chair, his presence unexpected ballast in this storm. Cooper presses against my leg, sensing the tension crackling between us. I simply showed him the truth he wasn't allowed to see. I reply, keeping my voice level despite the fire burning through my veins. The accumulated weight of decades of being dismissed pulses behind my temples. The doorbell interrupts whatever barbed response Victoria had ready. When I open it, Walter Harrison stands on my porch, clutching a thick manila folder with both hands. "I hope I'm not intruding," he says, though the timing feels orchestrated. Dad must have called him. "Perfect timing," Dad says, confirming my suspicion. "Victoria needs to see everything." Walter spreads documents across my coffee table with methodical precision. Bank statements, email printouts, meeting minutes. A constellation of evidence forming a picture Victoria can no longer deny. "This is Margaret arranging meetings between Thomas and your father," Walter says, pointing to an email chain. "She specifically requested these meetings be kept from you, Anwen." Victoria's face pales as she reads the words in our mother's distinctive formal tone. "Richard, I've arranged for Thomas to present his investment opportunity Tuesday at 2. Best we not mention this to Anwen given her irrational attitudes." "There's more," Walter continues. "A pattern of manipulation targeting your father's retirement accounts. Thomas requested initial investments of $50,000. Victoria sinks onto my sofa, her knees seemingly unable to support her. "Mom said you were jealous of my marriage," she whispers. "That you wanted to punish Thomas because your relationship failed." The words punch through my chest. "And you believed her." "She's our mother." Victoria's voice cracks. "Why would she lie?" Dad leans forward, elbows on knees. "Because she believed what she wanted to believe, just like I did." The painful recognition settles over use. Our family system has been unhealthy for decades. The roots of this betrayal run deeper than Thomas, deeper than the money. My phone rings, cutting through the heavy silence. The caller ID reads, SEC Investigator Daniels. "May I put this on speaker?" I ask, answering. "Miss Ellsworth? We've arrested Thomas Miller this morning on multiple fraud charges," the crisp voice announces. "I wanted you to hear it from us first, since your evidence was instrumental in our case." Victoria's hand flies to her mouth. "There's something else you should know," the investigator continues. "We have documentation that Margaret Ellsworth was warned about Mr. Miller's schemes by another victim 3 months ago. She appears to have disregarded these warnings entirely." The blood drains from Victoria's face. Her shoulders collapse as though the last support beam has been pulled from beneath her. When the call ends, Victoria stares at the silent phone, then at the evidence spread across my table, then at me. Something shifts in her eyes, the armor of certainty cracking. "I believed what Mom wanted me to believe," she says finally. Her voice small, stripped of its usual polish. "But I see it now." She opens her purse with trembling fingers and removes a stack of paper. "We hurt you, and I'm sorry." She hands me printed copies of every manipulative social media post she made, each one annotated with her own handwriting. "This was wrong. This was untrue. This was cruel." The genuine remorse cracks something open inside me. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a possibility I hadn't considered. Dad watches us, witness to this first fragile step toward healing. "I need some time away from the house," he says after a long silence. "And from Margaret." Victoria and I both look at him, startled by the firmness in his voice. "The lake house is empty," he continues. "Anwen, would you stay there with me for a while? Help me figure things out?" Before I can answer, Victoria asks, "Could I visit you both there?" Her voice holds none of its usual entitlement. "Only if you come without the performance," I say, surprising myself with the boundary. "No more posts, no more pretending." "I promise," Victoria whispers. Walter discreetly gathers his papers. Thomas has accepted a plea deal, full restitution to all victims plus penalties. "And Margaret?" I ask. Still denying everything. Dad says, the pain evident in the new lines around his eyes. "After 2 years of marriage, I've filed for separation." He reaches into his pocket and withdraws something that catches the light grandmother Warren's pearl necklace. "Your grandmother wanted you to have these," he says, placing them in my palm. "I should have ensured that happened years ago." The weight of the pearls in my hand brings unexpected tears. Victoria watches, and for the first time in my memory, there's no jealousy in her gaze, only quiet support. Late that week, as we help Dad move essentials to the lake house, the three of us pause on the dock overlooking the water. The afternoon sun turns the lake to hammered gold. Is forgiveness possible without accountability? I wonder aloud, not really expecting an answer. What would you require to rebuild trust with someone who betrayed you? Before either can respond, Cooper races past us and launches himself into the lake with a magnificent splash, soaking us all. Our startled laughter rises genuine. unguarded, the first moment of authentic joy we've shared in years. 6 months later, the morning sun streams through the boathouse windows, casting honeyed light across my easel. Richard installed these windows himself last month, working through the soreness in his hands to create this sanctuary for me. The lake stretches beyond, a mirror of blue serenity that once felt miles away from my life. My brush hovers over the canvas where 4 figures take shape: Richard with his silver hair and newfound straight posture, Victoria, her face softened without the hard edges of defensiveness, James, his youthful energy a bridge between generations, and me. I step back, studying the composition. On the right side, an empty space remains, the ghost of Margaret, not erased but acknowledged in absence. "You don't have to leave that space blank," Richard says from the doorway, coffee mug in hand. "Your art, your rules." "Some absences need recognition," I answer, wiping cadmium red from my fingers. Pretending she was never there would be another kind of lie. The brush feels alive in my hand as I add bold strokes to Richard's portrait, capturing the quiet dignity he's reclaimed these past 3 months. My colors have changed: vibrant reds, deep purples, confident yellows replacing the muted palette I once hid behind. Through the open door, I hear Victoria's car on the gravel driveway. The sound no longer tightens my stomach into knots. Grocery bags rustle as she unloads them, calling out to James, who emerges from the woodshop, sawdust painting his dark hair with premature gray. "Grandpa, I found that Brazilian rosewood you wanted," he announces, helping Victoria with the heaviest bags. Richard squeezes my shoulder before leaving to help them. I watch them move around each other in the kitchen, Victoria unpacking fresh vegetables, Richard preparing fish for dinner, James setting the old oak table with casual precision. 3 months ago, this domestic ballet would have been unimaginable. The phone rings. Walter's name flashes on the screen. "It's official," he says without preamble. "Thomas's sentencing is complete. Full restitution of $43,000 plus interest." My paintbrush freezes mid-stroke. "And Margaret?" Walter's voice softens. "She's joined a support group for family members of fraud victims. First step toward acknowledging what happened." The information washes over me like cool water. Not victory, not vindication, something quieter and more profound. "What will you do with the money?" Walter asks. I watch Richard showing James how to fillet the fish, Victoria washing berries at the sink. There's an arts program for seniors at the community center. They could use it more than me. After we hang up, I wipe my hands and join my family, the one I lost and found and rebuilt. We sit at the weathered kitchen table, sunshine falling across our faces. "I've been thinking about boundaries," I say, accepting the glass of water Victoria passes me. "About what we need to maintain this progress." "Like regular check-ins?" Victoria suggests, her usual defensiveness absent. "Or certain topics we agree to handle differently?" Richard nods. "Your judgment deserves respect. I've learned that the hard way." Victoria touches my wrist hesitantly. "I want this to work, Anwin. I'm committed to making things right." Later, after dinner, Victoria shows me her phone. A social media post, coffee mugs on the dock, steam rising in early morning light. The caption reads simply, "No filters, just truth." I'm framing this, I tell her, next to the old posts, to remember our journey. At sunset, Richard and I sit on the dock, watching light transform the water from blue to amber to deepest purple. If they had invited me to that birthday dinner, none of this would have happened. I reflect, bare feet skimming the cool water. Richard's eyes, clearer now without the burden of pretense, meet mine. And we would all still be living a lie. The truth of it settles over me. I lost a mother but reclaimed my voice. Victoria approaches with 3 glasses of Pinot Noir, the same vintage from Dad's birthday. The wine catches the last light as she hands us each a glass. "What part of your voice have you silenced to keep the peace?" I ask, raising my glass in a toast that extends beyond our circle, beyond this moment, beyond this lake reflecting the first evening stars.